Hey buddy, what's wrong? Got yourself a case of the ban list blues? Uh-huh. Well, if you don't mind being an Injun, I know a certain archetype that has no cards on the ban list. No. Oh, well, off to plan B. Boys, kidnap him.
Hey guys!
Hey everybody, it's still not Team Samurai here, and I'm gonna give you a new Ancient Gear deck profile that's ready for the Link format, if it wasn't already.
And this is Oz, by the way, doing the camera stuff as always. Thanks for watching.
Let's say hi to him.
Yeah, hi.
Alright everybody, so, what makes this Ancient Gear deck profile better than any other Ancient Gear deck profile? The answer is, you might have probably gotten spoiled by the little intro, but we're running a true Draco engine, so let's get on into it. For the first thing, we'll get into the boss monsters. You run 3 Ancient Gear Reactor Dragons, and then 1 Masterpiece. So, the reason why true Dracos and Ancient Gears are here together, as they are, is because they actually have a shit ton of synergy with each other that no one's talking about. This deck profile is a highly modified version of a Japanese OCG deck profile that came up months ago, and I haven't been able to find it since. I'm pretty sure people just don't recognize that it exists. I'll go into the combos and why these two work together, but just know that you have 3 Reactor Dragons and 1 of this guy. Sadly, unlike the last deck profile, Ancient Gear Golem just could not make the cut, but he will always live on in the hearts of children who have been good on Christmas.
And on his map.
And on my map. Alright, next up, you run 3 Wyverns, surprising pretty much nobody. So the thing is, with this engine, so the Ancient Gear part of the Ancient Gear deck profile really there's nothing new to it, apart from the true Draco stuff. Basically, it's the same thing that you've come to know and love. So you run 3 of these. He is your search card, although if you search with him, then you cannot set. So if you normal or special summon him, you get a search. I'll explain what these bosses do later on, because they require a lot of, whatever. Only 1 gadget and 1 Ancient Gear box. Now, I really, really like running 2 of each of these guys. But, unfortunately, this deck is already a 42 card deck, and I do not feel comfortable making it run any more than that. You can replace Ancient Gear Gadget with Ancient Gear Soldier if you feel like you need more attack power. But essentially, if you search box with anything, which it's going to be this guy, you can add 1 machine monster with 500 attack or defense from your deck to your hand, which is this guy. This, only running 1 of these is sort of like when you have a brilliant engine and you draw into Garnet, it sucks. So this is unfortunate, but these 2 cards are essentially how Ancient Gears get to make Chaos Giant. Oh, and then Gadget does stuff, but who cares? Gadget is, like, literally not used for anything of his card effects, so whatever. Next up, we run 3 Ancient Gear Hunting Hounds. He's a walking polymerization, and when he's normal summoned, you get to inflict 600 damage to your opponent. Woo! I wish this guy only had 500 attacks, so he'd work with Machine Dupe. Ancient Gears would have been so much better, but I digress. Still, he's great. Alright, and that is it for the Ancient Gear monsters. Next up, you run 3 of these kaijus. Basically, your highest attack in the main deck is 3,000, second highest being 2,950. So you don't want to run any of the kaijus whose attack goes above 3,000 if you don't have another one to special summon to your side of the field. I don't run Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. I side that out. Unfortunately, I will not be going over a side deck, but the point is, now that Interrupted Kaiju Slumber is only at 1, it's not really worth running, considering you only have 3 of these, and we're running out of space in the main deck as usual. You should know what these are. I feel like I don't have to explain what kaijus do. Next up are the hand traps. This deck likes going second, so you want hand traps. Full disclosure, if you are rich or lucky, These should not be Ghost Ogre. These should be Ghost Ash and Spring Blossom, because it's just the best hand trap in the game. If you don't have that, but you're still rich, 3 Drawl and Lockbird. If you don't have that, and you're like me, 3rd place isn't too bad, go 3 Ghost Ogres.
True.
Maxie's pretty self-explanatory, thank God it didn't get hit.
Woo!
And that will do it for the monster lineup. Alright, now for more of the Ancient Gear stuff. You run 3 Fortress. I used to only run this at 2, but with the synergy of the True Draco stuff, I run it at 3. This card does 3 things. It protects all Ancient Gear monsters from card destruction and targeting the turn that they're summoned. Its best effect, your opponent cannot chain any effects to Ancient Gear cards or effects that are activated, so that's great. And it doesn't specify on the field either, so if you search out Ancient Gear Box, and then Box activates its effect to add a gadget to your hand, they can't Spring Ash that stuff. Anyway, the other effect is that if it is destroyed by, if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard from the field, special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand or graveyard. Ancient Gears are what I like to call a very potential energy deck. They have a lot of built-up potential energy, it's just getting it to work.
Getting it to kinetic.
Next up, Ancient Gear Catapult. If you control no monsters, target a face-up spell trap on the field, destroy it, and if you do, special summon an Ancient Gear monster. Obviously, this works great with your fortresses. Then, if it's in your graveyard, except for the turn that you used it, you can also, both of these effects are hard once per turn, you can banish it, destroy any face-up card you control, and then if you do, special summon an Ancient Gear token.
Hey, yay for tokens.
Next up is 2 Power Bond. Yet again, I really would like to run these at 3, but considering you are not as consistently drawing Ancient Gear cards now that you have your True Draco engine, 2 is fine. Essentially what these do is fusion summon any machine monster just like Polymerization, except double the attack when it's summoned, and it's permanent, but at the end of the turn you summon the monster, take damage equal to its original attack. Next up, you run 3 Terraforming. Now, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and get all of the field spell stuff out of the way. This deck is basically field spell deck. So, 3 Terraforming, 3 Gear Town. You're going to have to forgive me for some of these proxies. I have bought them, they're just not here yet, and I wanted to make this as timely as possible with the ban list coming out. 1 Dragonic Diagram, and 3 Set Rotation. Now, this looks like a lot of field spell crap, and it is. This is literally almost a 1/4 of the entire deck, but when we get to some of the combos, you will understand why it is worth it. For those of you who don't know what this does, add a field spell from your deck to your hand. You can tribute Ancient Gear monsters for 1 less tribute, and if it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Set 1 field spell to your side of the field, and another field spell from your deck with a different name to your opponent's side of the field. Destroy, you can destroy any card you control or in your hand to search out a True Draco card, and it has a few other effects, but we'll get into those later. That's the important one. And the thing is, that might seem really cloggy, but as long as you do not draw into Dragonic Diagram itself, you actually want, like, if you have a set rotation and then you draw like all 3 of your terraformings, you're actually in a really good position. Like, it seems cloggy, but you want as much of the field spell stuff in your hand as possible. Alright. After the field spells, we have the other proxies, which are 3 True Draco Heritage.
Ooh.
It has 3 effects. First off, you can activate it, and you can draw a card for every True Draco Heritage that was sent from your field to the graveyard this turn. And then you can activate this card to tribute summon 1 True Draco monster in addition to your normal summon. Then if this card is, let me double check, sent from the spell trap zone to the graveyard, you can target 1 spell trap card on the field and destroy it. So not bad, and it gives us an extra catapult target. And while you would much rather be using catapult on Gear Town or Ancient Gear Fortress, getting a special summon from the deck and getting to pop a spell drop on the field is still not bad.
True.
And hey, if you have multiple of these and use an Ancient Gear Catapult on one, after it's gone, you just use your other one and get to draw another card.
And this works on any true Draco card that gets sent to the graveyard, right?
Let me make sure. True Draco or True King cards, so my bad, I had a bit of a slip of the tongue there.
Pretty dope.
Alright, and then I believe the last cards, yep, 2 Twin Twisters, because, you know, sometimes back row sucks and you hate it.
That's the 2 and the 42.
Yep. I wanted to put in Potted Desires, but that would have kind of messed up the True Draco engine, so I decided against it. Alright, extra deck time. So, for the extra deck, you are running 2 Ancient Gear Chaos Giants. It's tough. You could probably put this down to 1, honestly. I almost never find myself going into 2 of these. In fact, I really do never find myself going into 2. But it's just in case shit happens. Next up, Ancient Gear Howitzer. And much like Ancient Gear Chaos Giant, you could probably put this down to 2. I have had, unlike Giant, I have had games where I go into all 3 because they're really important, but whatever. Chaos Giant requires any 4 Ancient Gear monsters. He can attack every monster your opponent controls once each. He inflicts piercing damage. He is unaffected by spells and traps, and during the battle phase your opponent cannot activate monster effects of any kind. He is really good. And even though he requires a lot of materials, that's why you have Ancient Gear Box and then Power Bond. Making him usually ends up winning the game if you do it with Power Bond, and sometimes even without. Ancient Gear Howitzer is sort of the worker ant of the deck. He requires just any 2 Ancient Gear monsters, so he's really easy to make. He can inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent once per turn, hard once per turn, sadly. So if you, by any chance, summon a Ancient Gear Hunting Hound to fusion summon this guy, not a rare occurrence, you'll be doing 1,600 damage to your opponent. He is unaffected by all card effects, and the best part, if he's destroyed by battle, which is the only way you're getting rid of him, except for Kaijus, special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. But we don't run the 2 Ancient Gear monsters that have summoning conditions, so we don't care about that part. Next up are the Link part, 1 Mrs. Radiant, and 1 Decode Talker. Mrs. Radiant's pretty easy to go into. I don't find myself going into Decode Talker a lot, but sometimes you do, and he's just a nice option to have if you have a couple too many monsters. Mrs. Radiant gives all Earth monsters 500 attack and defense on the field. Guess what? Ancient Gears are Earth. And all Wind monsters lose 500 attack and defense, so FAs get to cry more than they already are. If it is sent?
Destroyed by battle, right?
If it's destroyed by battle or card effect, target 1 Earth monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Well, they're all Earth, so that's great. Decode Talker's pretty cool. He gains 500 attack for every card that his link markers are pointing to. He requires 3 effect monsters, he's a link 3, and once your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card you control, once per turn during either player's turn, you contribute a card that this card is linked to and negate that effect. So he offers some protection. You don't go into him very much, but hey, sometimes he can get up to 3,300 attack. He prevents targeting, so he's pretty cool. Now, Ancient Gears being a rank 4 engine, you run some of these staples. And one more. Boom! Castel's a problem solver. Tornado Dragon is more powerful than Castel and Diamond Dire and pops spells and traps once per turn during either player's turn. Gear Gigant searches your cards. Diamond Direwolf pops itself to pop any card. Diamond Direwolf is really good in this deck because for Ancient Gear Catapult to work, you cannot be controlling any monsters. So if you get out 2 level 4s, go into this guy. One of those level 4s will most likely have been Wyvern. Use Wyvern to search Catapult. Use him to pop himself and one other card your opponent controls, and then use Catapult to plus like mad.
Combo wombo.
Now I didn't include these guys with the other rank 4s just because they are so special, but we have the Utopia package. Simply the absolute best rank 4 in the game. He gets up to 5,000 attack, and with as many materials as I'm using, he can do that twice, and your opponent cannot activate any monster effects during the battle phase. Now, When Maximum Crisis, wow, blast from the past. When Circuit Breaker comes out, there is a certain rank 4. I forget its name. It's number 41, and its name is a pun with tapir. It is a drunk tapir that will definitely be censored in the OCG, and it essentially is a rank 4 true king of all calamities. I will most likely be removing Utopia Prime for him. He is, honestly, he might be better than the Lightning in terms of rank 4. He's just that good, but I don't own him. I'm not going to go over him. Look it up. Number 41, you have Google. And the final extra deck monster is True King of all calamities. You can easily make him with 2 of your Ancient Gear Reactor Dragons, and once per turn during either player's turn, detach a material, declare any type like Earth, Light, Wind, Fire, you get it. All monsters, all of your opponent's monsters become that type on the field, and all monsters your opponent controls that have that type, whether they be in their hand, field, or graveyard, cannot activate monster effects or attack for the rest of the turn. He's an amazing stall card, and he's 300 attack and defense. Okay, so that's the deck, and now we're going to be going into the combos. So, one of the best 2-card combos would be Set Rotation and Terraforming. There's a lot you can do with this. So, let's go into it. So, activate Terraforming. If you have Set Rotation, search out a Gear Town. Then, you will activate Set Rotation. You will give your opponent a Gear Town, and you will give yourself a Dragonic Diagram. Now, what you can do, use the Dragonic Diagram to pop Gear Town, and depending on what you have in your hand is what you will search. So, for instance, if you don't have any other True Draco cards in your hand, search out a Heritage. If you do already have a True Draco card in hand, then search out a Masterpiece, but we'll get into that later. Once you have used Gear Town, or Dragonic Diagram to pop Gear Town, you will summon a Reactor Dragon to your side of the field. You will then attack, pop your opponent's Gear Town, it will activate, and you will get another Reactor Dragon. Attack and pop. I should probably explain. When Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon attacks, your opponent cannot activate any cards or effects, and after damage calculation, if it's successfully attacked, destroy 1 spell or trap anywhere on the field. Once you have these 2, you can either keep them on the field, tribute them for your True Draco Slayer, Masterpiece that you just searched, though you have no continuous spells and traps in the graveyard, so that'd be foolhardy. Although if you already had one, you had one. Or, of course, you can just go into a True King of all calamities. So, there you go. And of course, if you have, if you had 2 of your Terraformings and a Set Rotation, you'd search out 2 Gear Towns, give yourself Diagram and your opponent Gear Town, and then you would have an extra Gear Town in your hand for next turn to pop with Diagram. Of course, there's lots more you can do with this. There's so many combos it's hard to explain. One of the best ones is using Ancient Gear Wyvern, because Ancient Gear Wyvern can search out Ancient Gear Fortress. So let's say we had the exact same thing, a Terraforming and a Set Rotation, but let's say we also have a Wyvern in hand now. Alright, Terraforming, get out Gear Town, Set Rotation. Important note, when you search with Wyvern, you cannot set cards for the rest of the turn. You must activate Set Rotation before his search effect resolves. You can activate it before you summon him, you can activate it as part of a chain to his effect, but if you wait until after his effect resolves, you cannot activate Set Rotation. So do not wait.
Don't be stupid.
Set Rotation happens, you get your Diagram, your opponent gets the Gear Town, summon out Wyvern, search out a Fortress, then activate Diagram, pop your Gear Town, get out your Reactor Dragon, search out your Masterpiece, who is hiding around here somewhere, and then you know, play down your fortress. It's a little condensed. Now, what you can do is you can activate attack with Reactor Dragon, pop the Gear Town, get out another Reactor Dragon, keep going. And now, if you have a Dragonic Diagram in your hand, then you can put it on the field and use its effect to normal summon these two by pitching out, you'll probably pitch out, yeah, Diagram and Wyvern, and now your field looks like this. Now that is a 4-card combo. You need set rotation, you need these two. It was 3, but you can't, since you used your normal summon on Wyvern, you can't normal summon again unless you have Heritage.
Oh, okay.
Now, of course, if you already have a Heritage in your hand, and you just want to, but you don't have a way to summon out Masterpiece if you were to search for him, instead what you could do is, you know, pop it or use Ancient Gear Fortress on it. Then whatever you summon out with this, you know, you can add another Heritage to your hand, activate it, and get to draw a card. There's a lot of combos and a lot of variances, so instead of going into even more combos, I'm just going to tell you why these two decks work together. First off, Masterpiece requires... Masterpiece can be summoned with either monsters, continuous spells, and continuous traps. You have 6 continuous spells in the deck. 3 of this, and 3 of this. Ancient Gear Wyvern can search out this, and when Diagram pops Fortress or Gear Town, you can search out one of these. So you're kind of plussing like mad. The other thing, Diagram can pop Fortress or Gear Town to get your searches going. And then, the other effect Masterpiece has is that once per turn, during either player's turn, you can banish any continuous spell or trap in your graveyard to target and destroy one card your opponent controls. Also, whatever cards that this card was tributed to make it summon, monster, spell, or trap, it gets immune to your opponent, to any effects of that same kind on the field. I really hope I don't have to explain what Masterpiece does, but just in case you don't know, now you know. And that's basically it. Your same strategy applies just like it did before. You know, you want to bring out as much beef as possible. What this deck adds is more to Ancient Gears that didn't have before is 2 things. More consistency, because you now have a searchable way to pop your search and special summon cards without having to rely on Ancient Gear Catapult. So it gives it consistency, it gives it more power in the form of Masterpiece, and it gives it disruption for your opponent on their turn. Something that Ancient Gears do not have in any way, and now they finally do. I don't usually do a great job of explaining things, honestly, when I have to do them sort of off the cup like this, so I hope that I've at least done kind of a good job. If you've seen my other Ancient Gear profile and you liked it, trust me on this, this version is the better version. Between the search power it has for your tribute summon, the amount of cards you can tribute with this, the amount of extra popping you can do with this, and because of Dragonic Diagram and Heritage, you now have even more options for your Ancient Gear Catapult. You're doing a very, very good service to Ancient Gears because their consistency just went up, their disruption power just went up, and you know, it's just cool like that. The other good thing, okay, I just realized the other thing. They don't need extra deck monsters as much now. The other Ancient Gear deck profile did need extra deck monsters a little bit more. It could span them out a little bit better. This one focuses less on the extra deck and more on the main deck, which is something that, you know, Link format really requires. Honestly, and the combos I've gone over so far don't even count Catapult, which is the main playmaker. I mean, my god, if you had a Catapult, a Terraforming, or, you know, just screw Terraforming, get rid of the middleman. If you had a Catapult, a Gear Town, and a set rotation, like, this is the Holy Trinity. It used to be that this was the Holy Trinity, and if you have a Fortress, you're even better to go. But if you have these 3 cards in your hand, which isn't hard due to Terraforming and the fact that you run 3 of each, you are bringing out a board that is usually... You know what, let's just run it through real quick. Alright, play Gear Town. Ancient Gear Catapult, destroy Gear Town. Summon out a Wyvern. Summon out a Reactor Dragon. Wyvern will search out Catapult. Activate Set Rotation.
You would chain set rotation, right? To
Yes, you would chain Set Rotation to Wyvern. Give your opponent a Gear Town. Give yourself a Dragonic Diagram. Depending on what you had in your hand, you would then, you know, you would pop whatever you had in your hand. If you had another Terraforming or Gear Town, you'd pop that, obviously. Whatever else you have in your hand, what's the most useful to pop, pop it. If you had another Reactor Dragon in your hand, pop the Fortress. One thing you should know, Fortress only gets its effect if it's destroyed on the field, so you have to activate it before you pop it with Diagram. And then, of course, you would search out your Masterpiece. You would play Fortress. You would tribute them both for Masterpiece. And don't forget that you have given your opponent a Gear Town, so then once you attack with Reactor Dragon, destroy it, get out another Reactor Dragon, or who knows, maybe you want to spice things up a little bit, so instead you decide to get out a Hunting Hound and then Fusion Summon, or you know, whatever you want to do. And that's essentially it. There are many times where I have gotten... there are lots of combos that end your field with this. And if you can get those combos, there's no more amazing a feeling. And considering that you can use Dragonic Diagram to pop Ancient Gear Fortress that you search with Wyvern, if, you know, your board gets kind of interrupted, say for whatever reason they wipe it, you know, if you have a Fortress still in your hand, or if you have a Wyvern in your hand, get it, get this, pop this, get that back. It's really easy to recur your resources and make it so that you do not run out of monsters to keep beating your opponent over the head with. So that's the new Ancient Gear deck profile for Lynx. I hope I didn't fuck up explaining it too badly. And give it a try, you know, go to Yugo Pro or whatever and test it out. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to see how well that these two archetypes work together. You know, I guess I'll just be repeating myself at this point, but, you know, Cliff Notes is, you're giving your Ancient Gear Catapult more targets, you're giving your Gear Town and Fortress more targets to be destroyed by, you're giving your True Draco Masterpiece more targets to use for its tribute summoning, and remember that because Wyvern searches out Fortress, if you didn't use your normal summon, that is both of your tributes for True Draco Masterpiece in one go. So that is the new Ancient Gear deck profile. I'm pretty proud of it. I hope you end up liking it. And, you know, subscribe to my friend's YouTube channel. It would do everyone a service. And, how many views did the last Ancient Gear video get?
It got about 9.2K, all because of you guys liking his shit.
Get it to 10,000, guys.
We want that 10K. Smash that like button for good luck, okay?
Yeah, smash that motherfucking like button.
Smash. It's not a SEMO thing. It's more of a Team Samurai, but
which we are not.
Absolutely phenomenal. Smash that like button, please.
Absolutely.
We're gonna drive that joke into the ground until you guys stop watching.
Best cards in the game.
Absolutely. The tokens. You didn't mention the tokens, by the way.
The tokens are cute, and they provide moral support.
Pretty cute. Well, thank you, Carson. Thanks for showing off the Ancient Gear profile.
Yeah, man.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know some of you guys were already asking for this update, so hopefully this is out soon. I'm going to edit this real fast. That doesn't matter because this is the future. But if you guys felt like he didn't explain something, if you need some clarity, let us know. If you have some suggestions,
I
Carson
will
is
answer
always down.
Every question you have. I am a master at my craft, and my craft is Ancient Gears. So if you, much like my last deck profile, any question you have, I will answer it.
Yes. And if you have any suggestions, let him know. He's always down to taking suggestions.
Always!
If you guys want to watch him possibly playtest hands and like show you a whole bunch of combos if you didn't get enough of that shit, because this deck is fucking combo the deck.
It is.
Then I'll talk him into making that. Whatever you guys want, let us know. We love making these videos. We love that you guys watched it. Thank you so much. You guys are great. And I think we're guys going to see you in the next video.
And hopefully by the time he does peer pressure me into making that video, I will not be a dirty
Proxy
paper
person.
paper using madman. So
Man, if we have to reshoot this, we're fucked.